if we're going to be able to get this to work. I think we are. I'm pretty excited for this first format, me doing it this way. What way is that, Carly? Well, I am currently reclined in my bed because this is the energy level that I'm currently working with. Um, Yesterday, my internet failed during astrology and coffee, and I started to go through all the things and did not finish. And so I very much wanted to finish and provide a transit forecast for you all. And as basically as soon as the internet failed and it wasn't coming back on immediately, I was very aware of how low my energy was at that moment. And this low energy basically carried through the rest of yesterday, and now it's tomorrow morning. Actually, it is March 5th, 2022, 7:53 a.m. Central Time, and I think I'm going to be able to. Yeah, so I don't know if this is going to come through super clear, but this is the Sun conjunct Jupiter in Pisces, and currently it is exact, meaning the Sun is at 1458 Pisces and Jupiter is also at 1458 Pisces. So this conjunction, um, it's technically a 2-day conjunction. It was yesterday and today that energy is really strong. And it just so happens that here I am making this video at the moment. Like, it'll only be this exact for a couple minutes. And I sit down to make the video like this, and it's exact. And that very much is the epitome of what I want to share about Sun conjunct Jupiter, is that it is an opening. It's an opening into a whole new dimension of your own consciousness. And I don't know if you guys can hear this. Let me show you just this before we get started too, because like I got my therapy dogs, aka just my regular dogs, in the bed with me. So that's Scoob. Hey, Scoob. She's very photogenic. She really likes all eyes on her. And then there's also this one, Stella, 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 Stella dog, Stella. She's not having it at the moment. So that's Stella. And yes, so a portal into a whole new plane of consciousness. And I've been reflecting on that for, gosh, like a long time, months, because as you could see in, this is my chart, by the way. So like this Sun conjunct Jupiter is happening just 2 degrees from my North Node and my Mars, which are both at 17 degrees of Pisces. That's almost 15 degrees of Pisces. And then we have Neptune is the other symbol there that's at like 20 degrees of Pisces right now. So as the Sun continues past Jupiter, it'll get to Neptune later on in the week. So I'm going to do a separate video about that. But yeah, so that's happening like right there. So I've been aware that this is coming for a while. It was one that I actually had on my personal calendar as a big transit, like just wanting to make sure I pay attention to how does it feel. Well, let me tell you how it feels, because I feel like that's about the best I'm going to be able to offer on what this transit really means, as I sit here and try to pull explanations and words and vocalize my knowledge around the Sun symbolism and Jupiter symbolism and Pisces symbolism. It feels like an impossible task. It feels like trying to take something that is like gigantic and pass it through something that's this big, aka language. Like the way that I'm feeling my being and feeling the truth of what I know, what I've picked up along my path, like I'm feeling it so profoundly that turning that into words is like how on earth, how on earth could you even begin to put it into words? So I feel like talking about it from the way I feel, not only is it basically all I can reach for in this moment, it's also me doing my best, and that's really all I've ever promised you guys, is that I'm gonna always show up and do my best. And last but not least, this morning, the realization that really clenched it for me doing it this way and just trying it and see what happens, um, was, authenticity is really what I'm practicing. That's, I feel like so much of my spiritual path boils back down into finding my authentic self and sharing that with the world. And basically, the question that came down, and it was like the question and the answer kind of all rolled in one, is this big realization was like, am I talking about authenticity or am I demonstrating authenticity? Because definitely the second one is my goal. And if anything, this low energy that I feel, this low physical energy, I believe it's divine. I believe it's divinely intended that, like, for example, let me just share how I'm feeling and kind of how it's played out. So, yesterday, after the live cut out, the internet just freaking crashed and like did not come back on for several minutes. And by the time it did, I had realized that, like, wow, my energy is so low. Like my brain just felt cloudy. My ability to like connect with my surroundings was like just numbed and quiet, and like I just could not get myself to come up out of my internal energy to connect. Like I went and got a pizza, and just like even having to speak the words to order the pizza was like such a reach. Like she couldn't hear me. I had to repeat myself multiple times because I just like could not say it out loud. Like just could not put volume to it. And all of this is very interesting because I feel like this is something where kind of where I started yesterday with Pisces being misunderstood. It's like, yeah, my ability to vocalize right now is basically shit. My ability to turn what I know on the inside into spoken words and try to explain in detail, like all the cool things about Jupiter, all the cool things about the sun, all the cool things about when a planet makes a conjunction with the sun. I know so much. I got all the knowledge in here. Turning it into words is like currently not available to me. And that is a very humbling experience for me, especially because when you look at my chart, it's like, here, let's just see. So this conjunction happening here. So like this chunk of energy is always there for me. And that's really where I'm reaching. My north node, my north star is right there. And so if you see, like it makes a T square down here to my Venus and Mercury at 18 and 19 degrees Gemini in my second house, which then also squares my south node over here in Virgo. So that's a T square, meaning this always has a lot of energy being funneled to it. And basically, how I'm feeling right now is like this. All of this up here is really exaggerating this, and it is very much pulling me out of this and up to this one. And right now, I can't get here. I don't know how to get here. Like, literally, the thought of trying to explain these transits just feels like overwhelming to the point where I don't even want to do it. So that was where I was yesterday, was like just overwhelmed and like, well, fuck. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, how do I show up when this is how I feel? And so I just didn't. I took like a 4-hour nap yesterday in the afternoon, and then I went to bed at like 7. And last night, the nap was amazing. The nap was like rock solid sleep, and I felt like a different person when I woke up from that. That was amazing. And then last night in my sleep, like I went to bed at like 7 and woke up this morning around 5. So like 10 hours. And I have sleep space again where like I have this Pisces energy, this 12th house energy all the time. And part of that is that I feel like most of my spiritual work happens in my sleep space. I think it happens while I'm sleeping. I think that's the bulk majority of like what I'm supposed to be doing, like what is my purpose. Most of it's happening on the sleep plane, on the astral plane, while my physical self is sleeping and my soul consciousness can blend fully with my higher self, and my higher self is an extension or a part of source energy. So like when I go to sleep, and really I believe this is true for all of us, but when I go to sleep, I'm very aware that I go places and there's the astral realm. And I don't know if that's a real thing, whatever. This is just what I call it. And it is that place where I go, where those nights when I go there, it's not every night, maybe it is, maybe I just don't remember sometimes, but this night I definitely remember. So like when I go there, it's like I'll wake up every little bit, like at least once an hour. I mean, it feels very frequent that I'm waking up. And while I wake up, I understand so perfectly the profound nature of the work that I'm doing in my sleep. And then I go back to sleep and I go straight back to where I just was. And last night, I remember the awareness that I had when I woke up in between one of these cycles. Um, I mean, now saying it out loud, I understand how it sounds, but check this out. So this is what I understood as I woke up in the middle of the night last night of what I was doing, this profound work that I was doing. It was like every time I would wake up, I would select one of the healing apples, out of my bedroom. They were hanging all in my bedroom. Like when I would wake up, they were all here, all of these healing apples. And these were all of the pieces of myself that are unhealed. And there were less than I thought there would be, but there were still so many. I mean, way too many to get through in one night of sleep, but so many healing apples. And so every time I would wake up, I would select my next healing apple and I would go back into, whoops, I would go back into sleep and I would heal that apple. I have no idea like where that the apple analogy comes from. I don't know. This was just the understanding that I had of what was going on. And so then I would wake back up for just a brief second so that I could select a new healing apple, and then I would go back to sleep and I would heal that apple. And so this continued like all freaking night. I was healing the apples, and this morning I feel a level of peace that I feel like I've contemplated this transit for months about like what does this mean? Like what is it actually going to look like in the physical when it gets here? And I did not see this coming. That like how it's playing out for me right now, like there's nothing profound happening in the physical world. Like if anything, my physical energy feels drained as fuck. Like to the point where my brain like feels like it is in sludge. Like I can't vocalize. And that's not to say that like people with heavy Pisces energy like can't vocalize. I know they can, but I'm talking like on a normal basis, I got all that Gemini energy and vocalizing is my jam. That's what I do. I'm a channel. That's what I do. I vocalize. Right now, it's like, no, I'm only in the feeling part. I'm just like deep in my feelings. I've been crying, which feels amazing, mind you. The sleep is profound. There is like just deep healing work taking place in my sleep. And so it's really bringing me full circle to like a deeper understanding even of like what is Pisces energy, but for sure this Sun conjunct Jupiter point of our vitality expanding, this new opening, this new expansion that's allowing us to do like whatever our divine purpose is. Like what light did you come to shine on this planet? This is a moment of your highest good expanding and like your consciousness itself expanding to allow more of that light that you meant to shine. So I really didn't know like what is this going to look like, you know? And all of that sounds like something profound that's going to happen out in the physical world. And I have no doubt that that day is coming where what's going on right now is going to translate into the outer world as something physical. But where I am right now is deep in the feeling space. I feel like my consciousness is just a flat puddle of water that never ends, that just is like infinite water, that just how do you pull it back together so that it's in a neat little package where you can like hand it off to somebody else? I don't know. I don't know. There's so much to say about all the different astrological archetypes that are at play in this Sun conjunct Jupiter in Pisces. But for me, the profoundness of it is happening at an energetic level, at a feeling level, in my sleep place. And that makes perfect sense. Like now that I'm in it, now that I'm feeling it, now that I'm like seeing it exactly and like, okay, this is exact in the sky right now. How do I feel? You know, like it's not about predicting what's going to happen so much for me. I mean, I know there's a lot of people using astrology that way, but I like to do this where I'm like, okay, so it's exact. This is as intense as this energy is ever going to be. Now interpret how you feel. And this expansion, it feels profound more than I'm physically seeing anything happen. And I'm putting this piece together for me personally, and I'll bet a lot of people at the moment, like again, I think I started to say this earlier, where Pisces gets misunderstood because like they can't, or maybe like what they do, it doesn't look on the surface like what everybody else is doing. Like, you know, it's easy to get frustrated with yourself when your physical energy is low or when you can't vocalize as well as you normally can. Your thinking isn't as clear as it normally is, your focus isn't as clear as it normally is. Like that can be really frustrating for people and like a reason to beat up on yourself or a reason to like pound another energy drink or like whatever it is. And it's like the yesterday and this morning, what I'm seeing is like I'm pretty positive that it's like a pendulum swinging between two extremes of like if you have really intense physical energy in your body in your vessel right now that needs to be channeled, you're going to be active out in the world, you're going to be doing something, you're going to find something out in the physical world to move that physical energy. But when your physical energy is zapped and it's gone and now there is no physical energy, you are a still being, you have such a greater likelihood of finding the sleep realm, finding a meditative trance state, finding just even a moment where you are in total stillness and you allow yourself to relax like on an even deeper level. Like I'm seeing so much in this clear light of Pisces where it's like I have a Virgo South node. So one of my shadow work loops, one of my like healing patterns that I'm working on in this lifetime is healing a workaholic mindset and healing a perfectionistic mindset. And right now, in this moment, especially making the video like this, I want to say girl. I know there's more than just girls listening to this, but like seriously, the lighting's not perfect, the words aren't perfect, my energy is not perfect. None of it's, I'm in my freaking bed. The angle sucks. Like, there's all this up here that's like, I mean, this is so not me, like making a video. I realize like how much particular detail I go into in terms of like setting up the shot and editing afterwards and like putting some cute music on there and like doing all this and like all of these details that like at the time when I have the energy to do them, like in the past, they feel so important. They feel like, why wouldn't I want to do it this way? And right now, I just feel like I don't, oh God, I don't have the fucking energy to do any of that. And it's like, but I still want to show up. And so then it brings me all the way back around to like owning authenticity. Like, am I speaking about authenticity or am I demonstrating authenticity? And especially with all of this Jupiter conjunct the sun in Pisces happening right on my north node, this feels like what the expansion is. It's an expansion of like radical self-acceptance, radical acceptance of like going with the flow of what is and trusting that no matter what is, it's exactly as it's supposed to be. A low energy level can be divinely intended if it sends you into the sleep realm where you receive divine healing. where you process deep things and you release them from your being. You wake up in the morning and you feel like a new person. That's spiritual evolution of your consciousness. And when you have low physical energy, you're that much more likely to get there. And so that's what I'm telling myself right now. Is like, if you feel like this, if you feel like your physical energy is zapped, get in your bed. Put yourself on bed rest. And that's where I'll leave it. The last time I felt like this, it was a while ago, which is also kind of cool. I speak about that often in my shadow work talks where it's not about eliminating low energy, it's about like kind of spending less and less time in that space. So the last time I was here, I made a video called Radical Rest Theory. Um, the idea is basically normalizing bed rest for energetic depletion rather than waiting until you're physically ill to go on bed rest. And so I'm on bed rest. Hello, and how are you from my bed rest state? So yeah, there's that. And also, I have a Zoom this morning, here in a couple hours, that is happening at 10 a.m. Central Time on March 5th, 2022, that is for my Patreon community, and it is a shadow work Zoom where I'll talk a little bit at the beginning. Mostly how I'm feeling right now is a very, very shadow work moment, um, because I'm basically having to surrender to the fact that my body does not want to do anything. My body wants to be resting. And that means that I'm having adventures of consciousness, which seems so appropriate for Jupiter and Pisces conjunct Sun in Pisces. So, yeah, I'll link the Radical Rest Theory video in the description. That's about the most effort I'm going to promise you at this point. And I'll be back later in the week to talk about the Sun conjunct Neptune, which it'll be doing here in about 5 days. And then also Mercury squaring the North and South node, also happening here in a few days. So as those conjunctions get closer, I'll come back and likely do a similar video to this format. I would love to hear your thoughts on the format. Keep in mind, it's the best I got. So you guys take such good care of yourselves, and so will I. Now, how do we turn the video off?